Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You're always most welcome. So today we have got interesting new kit from ICM. Not a complete new tool, but got some new parts in it. It's a variant of the Bristol Beaufort Mk.1A. This time it's the British Torpedo bomber in Coastal Command trim. Of course, these were used especially around the start of the war against enemy German shipping, against the German Navy, and particularly against German merchant shipping as well, especially in places like Norway and around Denmark and places like that, by Coastal Command. Anyway, it's kit number 48 scale, of course. Kit number 48315. I'll just read what it says on the side. Model of one of the most famous RAF Coastal Command aircraft of World War II. I mean, actually, in the RAF they were in service, of course, as we now have done previous, at least one previous review on the Beaufort, but they got withdrawn by mid-war, even because they weren't quite agile enough and fast enough, and things like the Beaufighter and the Mosquito replaced them, of course. It says, a highly accurate reproduction with detailed exterior features, model's geometry perfectly matches with the real prototype. Wing can be assembled in two variants, with or without the air deflectors. Oh, right, okay, yeah, get into that later. Models come with the ASV radar antennas and a Mk.1A aerial torpedo and a torpedo trolley. That sounds pretty cool, so you can have it on static display with a torpedo on a torpedo trolley. If you actually look at the artwork, which is, it's not quite Roy Huxley, but it is very nice, isn't it? Another one of these CAD style, but look at the torpedo there. You can see it's got this huge, as was typical at the time. They made the stability tail out of wood. You can clearly see that there, and they often were. I think the Japanese did the same thing for Pearl Harbor. Of course, they put wooden fins on them to enable them, in the case of Pearl Harbor, to enable them to be able to not. To navigate the very shallow harbour at Pearl Harbor. And I think this is lessons that were learned from Taranto against the Italian Navy, but that was swordfish, of course. Anyway, we digress. Let's have a look at the side of this. So, we've got the number 5 Squadron operational training unit. So that's clearly one of the, I think they were based at Linton-on-Ouse, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. And then we have got number 2 tactical training unit. So this has been non-operational. You know, these guys would start on learning on this aircraft and then go to the operational unit. And then we've got the Southeast Asian camo style, sorry, I should call it Pacific camo really, RAF number 33 Squadron, sorry, 22 Squadron, beg your pardon, later in 1944. And again, because of this performance issue, some of these got moved out into the Pacific Theatre. But even then, the Beaufighter was sort of chasing up its bit patches, so to speak, because that came along and sort of superseded it. Anyway, I've actually already cut the tape on this because somebody warned me it was quite hard to get into it. This is a bit tricky, a bit tighter than most of them are. I think it's because it's shallower, the box. When they're big and shallow, they're really tricky to get the top on. Nice to do it. Anyway, there we go. Let's have a look. So we have got, are they zoomed all the way back there? Yes, we are. So we've got one big bag of, sorry, I'm just noticing my camera angle is slightly different to usual. I don't know why that is. I'm sure it wasn't like that when I set it up. One big bag of parts, lots of sprues and all the usual accoutrements. Let's have a look. So it says here, okay, there's a bit more detail. The Bristol Beaufort torpedo bomber was developed by the Bristol Airplane Company. It was a 4-seat, twin-engined aircraft with a mid-wing configuration and all-metal structure. Its defensive armament included a rearward-facing machine gun turret, quite a big turret actually, for protection of the rear hemisphere, as well as machine guns mounted in the fuselage sidewalls. Well, okay. It's got like gun ports at the side. and this enabled firing to the sides. The aircraft started its combat operations in April 1940, just before the end of the phony war, just about the time of the Germans starts to invade the Low Countries, just a couple of weeks before, in fact. It conducted aerial mining of sea harbours, performed daylight and nighttime torpedo attacks, and bombing coastal targets. The Mk.1A modification received a new machine gun turret and radar systems, ASV, which were installed on some torpedo bombers for ship detection. Now this is right at the beginning of radar, so this is almost a radar developmental experimental aircraft, you could say, to a degree. The aircraft were actively used in naval combat and bombing raids over German-occupied territory. From around 1943, most British Bristol Beauforts were primarily used for training and auxiliary roles, because it had been kind of superseded by the Beaufighter and then the Mosquito, which obviously were a different kettle of fish. So the Beaufighter was a little bit quicker and not as heavy, basically. And I think that having all these extra gun turrets and things, it's a bit like, if you look at that and think of it compared to the Beaufighter, which came later, it kind of reminds you of the Bolt and Paul Defiant, doesn't it? Where you've got a big heavy gun turret, it's bound to be slower. Probably not ideal. Probably not ideal. So they went for a more agile, faster plane for torpedo runs, and then for as a bomber, of course, the Mosquito kind of replaced it, didn't it? So let's have a look. We've got our sprue tree mats here, and looks like you're going to use everything in the first 4 big sprues. Then just a couple of, because they're different variants, you've got a couple of bits of glasswork you won't use on this particular variant, and surrounding one of the gun positions, I think it is, and then there's just one part, strangely, on the torpedo trailer you won't use. Anyway, it starts off by building up the sort of cabin area with the rear to the back of the cockpit. You've got the rear bulkhead here. In fact, that's actually the crew compartment. Sorry, a little bit further back than I realised. Let's just zoom in a bit more so you can see what I'm babbling on about. There we are. So, yes, so you're building that up. Then there is this tube. I should remember, it threw me before, and I said, "Is it a toilet?" I don't think it is it? Was it for dropping small depth charges? I think it may have been a manual tube for dropping depth charges through. Either that or it's a loo of some description. Anyway, we'll move on. Then you're building up all the side wall of the fuselage, having got the basics of the floor of the cabin. Then you bring those two together here. And then we're going to start with all of the instrumentation and the controls for the crew at the front. And it has a big spar section. I seem to remember it has a... People said it's quite nice to build because it clicks together onto this spar section, which then forms the inner part of the console, incredibly. Then you got your main instruments, and you got all your the crew or the pilots' rudder pedals. And then you're going to bring that together here into the sort of section that forms this almost like a pod, where the pilot's going to sit at the front. It's almost like a fighter, the section where the pilot sits. And then you've got this area lower in the glass house at the nose at the front. Then you've got a second spar coming in, as you can see there, which is the rear spar for the wing. And then we've got the pilot's seat itself. And that's going to drop in there, complete with the control yoke, because it is a yoke on this one. And then we've got a couple of a couple of small bulkheads toward the rear where the tail wheel's going to go, the sort of gear bay. It doesn't actually have a retracting tail wheel, this aircraft. It is a static one. A couple of holes to drill here on the side. And then you've just got some more instrumentation, I think, for the navigator, radio equipment, etc. going in there. And then you're going to bring the two fuselage halves together, pop on your glasshouse cockpit, canopy I should say. And then you've got these are these gun ports that it mentioned, the gun ports for the side guns. And it looks to me like I always get mixed up, don't I? I keep getting into trouble with this. It's not a Lewis gun, is it? It's a Decals. complete with a rotary magazine. And then we've got our quite, yeah, that's one downside which I'm not too keen on. They've got this, the glass house, the top of the nose is actually in two halves. It's almost like the Airfix Seeking, isn't it? Not sure I like that. ICM don't normally do that anymore. They seem to have gone to one-piece units, so just be careful there. You'll need some... we don't want to be using any super glue or anything like that. I would probably be using some PVA based, you know, clear drying adhesive that won't fog. Very important. And then you've got this installation of this gun port on the port side that we just built up. Then we start with the wings. And we've got the lights, the navigation lights, landing lights on the wings. We've got ailerons and flaps, which is nice. That's very cool. And there's actually two different types here. There is a straight type, and there's a type where you've got more of a flared, what do they call it? There's a phrase they use, isn't there? With or without air deflectors. So they're like strakes, aren't they, these? They're like a strake. There's even a bit more. It's kind of a strake air deflector, interestingly, on the trailing edge there. So that's obviously because there was some concern. I suspect that's when they're at low speed. It's probably to give a bit more lift, really. Maintain airflow and avoid separation of the airflow. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. All the same choices there. Then we've got the horizontal stabilisers going in, and then you bring those wings in onto those spars that I mentioned, which I'm told is a great fit, so they should click in really nicely. Then we've got our rudder, very very typical sort of Bristol looking rudder, like the Beaufort, isn't it? Very similar. Then we've got Bombay coming in. We've got all the lower flaps, which are quite detailed, aren't they, these flaps? So that's a nice, actually. You've got plenty of inner detail being shown there without need for any photo etch. Then we've got our nacelles for the engines, them going on there underneath, and then we're going to build our gear, and the main gear, they have got a split, which I'm not that keen on, but it's got a split wheels tyres instead of being in one piece. And again, very Beaufighter, similar Beaufighter looking undercarriage. Yeah, it does look familiar, doesn't it, all this, in terms of the design choices of the time, you know. And that's going in there into the nacelles ultimately, being fitted in there. Then we've got our doors going on for the gear here, and then we start with the engine, start the front now, with your all your pistons, cylinders on display, and they've got all the exhaust pipes that go to the main exhaust exit. Whoops, because they'll come to those in a second. So that's looking pretty nice. Got a nice looking prop and spinner going on there, and then finally you put those on, complete with the shrouding goes round it, and you've got these air intakes that go on the top. Very nice. That's very nice. The main cowls then come around the engine, on both engines, same on the other side, and then you've got your gun turret going in. Now, this is interesting, one of the things that make the aircraft sort of part of its character really. You've got what looks like twin, are they twin Brownings? I think they're twin Browning 303. Does it say here? I didn't look at that, did we? 303, yes, it's 303 Browning. On a twin sort of twin turret arrangement, complete with magazines underneath. That goes into this. Oops, that goes into this ring, and then it actually forms into a full glass turret, rotating turret. So it can actually rotate on the model as well, I guess. Yeah, I think it can. I'm not 100% sure. And then we've got these guns at the front, so you've got an option here. Because I think, as it shows there, there's a question mark, G12, with the guns or without the guns. Oh God, go for the guns, go for the guns. And then you've got, flipping it over, and you've got the starts of the Bombay here, or Torpedo Bay, it's going to be, of course, on this aircraft, which is going to be an interesting setup where I don't think it has any doors, because it's because it is a big torpedo, or does it? No, it does have some doors. I see. So what they do, it's interesting this. So what they're doing is they have got doors, but they remain open while the torpedo's in situ. Once they've dropped the torpedo, and here it is, British Torpedo, and it shows it as one piece. Is that one piece, really? That's odd. I've missed a section of that. Should I flick over a page there? No. Oh, it just seems to show the torpedo in one piece, doesn't it? Anyway, so you've got the option. The option is you can have them closed, or, as you'll see in a second, you can have them open. You've got your main, you've got a rear-facing turret underneath. There's a lot of gun turrets on this. This is why it's probably a bit slow. It's well armed, and again, it's another 303. And this is rearward facing here. It goes in and then faces backwards, as you can see. So you can see the setup is that you have the doors have to be open until such time as they drop the torpedo, and then they shut them. Interesting. You've got several exhausts and there's a couple of more bits of glass going on there. Oops. It feels like a fussy design, not the kit I'm talking about, the actual aircraft. It's a kind of fussy design the way they've gone about it, like it was adaptation has taken place. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got lots of these radar antennas, which we talked about, covered in radar antennas. So the kit itself is lovely. It's got all these different options and extras on it. And then we've got the top antenna, and then there's also several antennas actually, different types, radar antenna, radio antennas, all going in. And then, yeah, you see, now this is this is one thing about ICM. I'm going to have a word about this. So the torpedo is in fact in two parts, and they just showed it just appear completed, whereas it's actually an assembly process here. So they've kind of got them the wrong way around. Just be aware of it. It's not a problem. Just be aware of it. Just don't expect a one-piece torpedo. That's what threw me. A little bit confusing sometimes. So it's a separate process. You build up your torpedo, putting on these rear fins, these wooden fins I talked about, and then you've got the actual cradle that it's going to sit in, being assembled here, and then ultimately it goes onto your trolley. You build up the full trolley, put the wheels on, which looks brilliant. I've got to say, that looks cool. Yeah, that's it. There's a lot in this kit actually. There is a lot in it. What's it retailing for? About £50, I think, isn't it? Thereabouts. And there's the finished aircraft. There we go. With my thumb out of the way. There we are. Now the only downside, of course, to one or two of these kits like this is it's got a lot of glass. Here is your template for masking. Ooh, yeah. I think I'd probably go to Edward and get the mask set, to be honest. It's definitely something for ICM in the future, perhaps in better times when they're not under this awful situation over in Ukraine. They might be able to develop their kits to include masks rather than just templates, because that's a lot of work. You know, they've provided the template, fine, but there's a huge amount of work just creating the masks. Look at the shapes you've got. You've got some unusual shapes there. It's not going to be straightforward, is it? Anyway, I won't mark them down for that because it's not different to any other of their kits, but and Airfix don't do it either, but it's just a bit of a problem, you know. Anyway, then we've got this one, which is the Coastal Commander Long Cache. Where's that? Long Cache? Don't know. Don't recognise that name. And then we've got Castle Kennedy, which that sounds like it's Northern Ireland or Ireland. Forgive me forgive me, those of you from the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland. But it's surely across the Irish Sea, I can tell. I think it is. And then this is in the proper Coastal Command colours, which is probably the one I'd go for on this. I think that looks quite cool, the Coastal Command colours. And it makes the torpedo really stand out, doesn't it, there? And then we've got Ceylon, yes, it's in the Far East. We've got them based in Ceylon. Or Sri Lanka as it is today, of course. So there you go, which is also a nice scheme, actually. It's quite a low-key scheme. Well, that was very interesting. My first impression of the kit is, again, there's quite a lot of plastic and quite a lot of nice options in the kit. You've got options on guns, you've got options on these air fins on the back of the trailing edge. and you've got all these aerials and all sorts of stuff, you know, and the torpedo options with the trolley. Very good, very good. Let's have a look at the decals. Oh, actually, I think we have a slight quality problem here. Is it my eye? I don't know if you can see better on the camera than I can. There's a bit of an issue here. This is unusual. ICM's decals are usually lovely, but these are a bit blotchy. Can you see that? There's a bit of a white ring there between the border of the two blues. But I'm slightly more concerned about the blotchiness. I don't know if you can see this on the camera. Quite a blotchy appearance in the dark blue. Doesn't look as good as their normal quality. You can see it there on this one. Can you see that? It's a bit blotchy looking. Most unusual. The blacks and everything are fine. And again, on the RAF ones, a little bit of blotchiness. It's not quite up to their normal quality. I think this one escaped the QC lady or gentleman. It just doesn't quite have that sharp depth and solidity that they normally have on the other kits. I don't remember that on the other Beaufort, but those Pacific roundels definitely don't look that great, to be honest. So I'm afraid I might have to knock ICM a quarter of a point off for that. Of course, oh no, it's ICM and I didn't have to pay for the kit, so they get 10 out of 10, don't they? No, they don't. Somebody said that. If you looked at the recent review I did on the German dreadnought battleships from World War One, somebody who's clearly not been to the channel before said, "Oh, well, I see. So you get them free, so you're bound to be biased then." No, I'm not. There's the proof. Yeah, if I see something I don't like, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to knock them a point off, or a quarter of a point, I think, because something like that, if you've got any weathering and stuff, it probably won't be visible, but that doesn't make it right, and I will say so. If I see anything in an ICM kit or anybody else's kit that I didn't pay for, no matter how I got it, it makes no odds to me whatsoever. And in fairness, ICM understand that, I'm sure, but I might just have a word with them about that. It's very unusual. I've not seen that on their decals before. That was almost like Edouard decals. Let's not get into that. Yeah, Edouard could send me all the free kits in the world. I'm still not going to be nice about their decal. Oh, anyway, right, let's see what we got then. Let's see what we've got. Nice clip. Now, clear parts, fingers crossed. Because for clear parts, I think we'll start with them. Clear parts usually are ICM's trump card. It's their ultimate asset because they are really good at these clip parts. So let's make sure. Fingers crossed. Don't have any other glitches. Let's see what we've got. No, they're absolutely fine. Bit of dust on it, so dust. Yes, that's lovely. Let's have a look at these then. Well up to the standard that we've come to. Oh, actually, no, I've got a slight mark there. What's that? Well, I've got a tiny mark there. Where's the man with his bamboo stick? Come on, polish it for me. Just a slight scuff. Yeah. Maybe this just missed the quality control lady or man that they normally have. It's only a tiny one. Can you just see it on this? I'll show you where it is. It's just... It may not show the same on the camera, but it's just about here. There's a slight... There it is. You can see that little scuff. A little scuffy scuff mark. Just off centre, on the port side of that central framing. The light makes it difficult to spot it actually, but it's there. Anyway, other than that, they're absolutely fine. There is a bit more distortion. It's not quite up to the. Don't forget, this is not a new tool. This clear parts either. And it's not quite up to the standard we saw of Marauder, which was just one of the best ever, really, and almost a textbook example of how good clear parts can be, frankly. But you probably might not see it because you're not getting the same reference points because of the camera angle that I'm getting. There is a little bit of distortion around here, and it's really hard to see, I think, from where the camera is positioned for you. But it is there. I've got something behind it, and I can see. Yeah, it's not as good as the Marauder. It's not as good as the Marauder. But there's nothing fundamentally wrong with them. They're very scale light and they're bright and crisp. I moaned about. I just moaned about this one here, and again, it's just there, just to the left of that central frame piece. It's really hard to get the camera to spot it, but that will polish out in literally 5 seconds. It's not a serious scuff. It's just something. I think it's on the inside actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is on the inside rather than the outside. Maybe just, don't know, mishandled or just coming out of the mould. But overall, they're really, really nice. They do, overall, their clear parts are better than Airfix, I would say, generally speaking. On the new tools, anyway. On the new tools. So, yeah, the clear parts are kind of a 9 out of 10. So I might be just another quarter of a point. Ooh, step to 9.5 max now. Ooh, sorry, ICM. Well, there you go. Proves again. I'm not biased at all. If I see it, I say it. Simple as that, really. And that's the way you got to be. And then people that are just, we know there are people out there that just rave about things almost like they're sponsored by them. Well, it's not me, I'm afraid, and I will be completely objective for you, because otherwise there's no point in doing the video, really. Let's have a look at these then. So this is the main wings. Let's see if we can. Oops, I'm having a bit of trouble with my zoom. It's stop starting today. It's had a holiday and it doesn't like it. Going back to work. I know the feeling. Oh, by the way, just a quick one. No, I'll say it at the end. That's all right. Let's look at this. Right. Now that is beautiful plastic. That is really, really nice. That's got lovely detail on it. There's the starboard wing, port wing underside, and then port wing top, and then the starboard wing. And you see here we've got our flaps, I should say, flaps and ailerons. Doesn't have slats on this plane. It's got enough going on already, isn't it? But it's nice. It's very nicely finished as well. I always like the plastic of these later ICM kits. It takes paint very well. It's almost like it's got the ideal sort of key surface. It's not too matte, not too glossy, just right. It's like a satin finish. Very nice. So that's that. Excuse me 1 second while I just have a reorganisation over here. That's not a problem. There we go. That one in there. Right. Then we've got the main fuselage, which is here. It almost looks, when you look at the aircraft design. I'm not talking about the kit so much, but the aircraft design. It's like a bow fighter where they've tried to add everything on it that the Admiralty or the Royal Navy, Royal Air Force could think of. The designers. And the bow fighter is like a slimmed down, more racy looking version of this, isn't it? Which is the way they went in the end. But it's quite interesting, isn't it? You've got these are the gun ports at the side for the Vickers machine guns. Sorry, not Vickers. I've done it again. For the Brownings, I should say. Or was it Vickers at the side? No, I'm right. It was Vickers on the sides. Vickers at the side. And it was Browning down the fuselage, front and rear. Yeah, Vickers machine gun. But look at the pan lining here. It's got this lovely consistency to it. Carries on the same. It doesn't vary when it goes underneath. There's a really nice sort of scale look to it. Very nice. Very nice. Right, that's that one. I'm just going to pop in there for a second. Then we've got sorry, I'll draw it back. I haven't got it on the screen to look at. Then we've got all the big parts, some of the big chunky stuff. So we've got here the spar, all the spars here. And then we have got, quite interestingly, we've got these different types of flaps. Now this is worth a closer look, so let's just come in a bit closer here. So this is the more standard one, as you can see, and underneath, really nice detail in them. And no ejector pins either, no ejector pin marks, that's cool. Like that. Yeah, they've done that in a clever way. They've put these little ejector pin lugs on instead, cool. So that's the standard one, what it looks like as it trails off. Obviously this sort of spur here that goes to the fuselage. And here's the optional ones with the wing fins built into it. It's a little bit like, it's almost like Adrian Newey from Formula 1 has been let loose on the design for an hour or two, and it's got some flow modifiers, you know, as they would call it in Formula 1. So this is to make sure that they don't lose airflow, and it's to help on the top surface to make sure that they don't have airflow separation, and therefore at low speed landing that they don't have it stalling. And underneath there again you can see the same basic ideas apply. You've got the same internal detail of the flap, which is really nice. But that's a nice touch, I like that. I'd be very tempted to go with that one, it's got so much character. Anyway, moving on. So we've got the engine nacelles here, horizontal stabilisers there, and then we've got over here, we've got the lower fuselage under the pilot's area, and then the instrumentation there, complete with and this is the bulkhead stroke spar that I spoke of at the beginning in the instruction. And then we've got there's another couple of bulkheads here, and this forms the main cockpit area. You've also got the rudder popping in here with what looks like very much like a Beaufort rudder, typical Bristol rudder. And that's in one piece, so that's just moulded in one piece, two sides. They've done a nice job of this, I really have, I like that. And again, nice plastic, finish is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's very impressive, actually. I like that. I like the air fins though on the flaps. That's really quite cool, something a bit different. Been awfully tempted to go with that, I think. Anyway, that's that there, and then your torpedo. Now then, this is the real business end of this aircraft, isn't it? The Coastal Command, taking out German shipping in Norway and places like that, the fjords, you know. First of all, you've got these, this is also the trolley, so this is actually the support braces for the trolley you're seeing here. And then obviously the wheels and tyres, and then the actual sort of cradle braces here. It supports the torpedo. I think we have like leather on them or something to to be soft. You know, with that going off prematurely. Oh, it wouldn't be fused, of course. And then over here we've got some more parts. Some focus, thank you. And again, look at the fineness of these parts and the excellence of the moulding. There's no flash here. Here then you've got this is the wooden fins here and here, and these are the side fins, end plates if you will. Again, with a Formula 1 reference there. And there's two types in this kit. This one you don't use. That one's obsolete. That was the part that they said not to use. And then of course the torpedo itself, which looks, yeah, pretty huge. And I thought it was funny in the instructions, as you saw, that initially it inferred that this was all came ready built, this torpedo, and I thought, no, there's no way. So actually it's just that they've got them, they put the cart before the horse slightly there, ICM, but we'll let them off for that. But aren't they nice, the detailed parts, look at the fineness of these, the lack of flash. Beautiful moulding, to be fair, really, really nice. That goes in there. Then we have got over here some of the guns. Get down to business now. So we can have a detailed look at these guns. And yes, of course, it's a 303 Browning, as I said. Clearly see that now. 303 Brownings there. And the other one is I guess, but it's not on this sprue. So that's interesting. So this is a sprue really with all the turrets and the turret rings on it. And you've got the shroud for the turret, the rear facing turret on the back of the rearward facing top fuselage there. And then you've got these radar antennas here, which again, lovely moulding. Just be careful when you're cutting these off. You need some fairly fine sprue cutters, I think, to get those off nice and clean. And of course, I've said about the guns, but there's also the radar antenna for the front there as well. Very nice, isn't it? Excellent. Super duper. Right, like that. So far, it's all going well. It's just a shame about those decals, which were a bit of a miss, weren't they? So we've got here two that are identical. So let me just, sort that out. We only want one of them. Come back to that in a second. But here, this is the bigger sprue. So here you got your shrouds at the front of the engine, and you've got those lovely rudder pedals for the cockpit there, like stirrup rudder pedals. Those are nice and clean. Cracking moulding, absolutely gorgeous, really. Those pedals are fantastic. Then you've got your the elevators, I should say. Fit at the back of the rear stabilisers, ailerons. Lots of lovely contouring. Look at the way they've got the sort of stretched skin effect there. That's nicely done. Over here you've got your pilot's seat, and again lovely contouring on the pilot's seat. And that looks very comfy, to be honest. It looks like a bench seat almost, isn't it? When you see how basic some of these seats actually are. And then we've got our tail wheel, of course. We've got over here some of the exhaust pipes. And then we've got the sort of outer seat there. And we've got the sides, complete with some control levers for the cockpit sides, for the pilot. Absolutely brilliant. And then we've got our gear doors, which remain open, of course, until they drop their torpedo. And then over here, we've actually got the gun port covers for the different shapes on each side, I think. Am I right in saying that? Yes. Here's the gun port itself, and here's the gun port covers, and they are different shapes on each side. One's round and one's oblong. I'm not sure who thought that was a good idea. Why would that be? That's a strange choice, isn't it? Why would it be different? Anyway. And then you've got a seat back here with armour plate. This is for the navigator radio operator. And torpedo aimer. It might be the torpedo aimer seat, actually, that one, in fairness. And anything else of note here? We've got I think part of the cradle system for dropping the torpedo, hold the torpedo in place. A few of the instruments. Really nice sprue, that. Excellent. And then we have, stick me back for this, I'm not doing very well today. I've got a lot of green screen. Tell them how to practice again. Sorry about that. I'm not used to doing the show without champagne, that's the problem, you know. There's the spotlight out of the way. Excuse me for one no. Getting these in is always a challenge. I love you to hear a nice crinkly bag from ICM. They do the best crinkly bags in the business. Right, last one then, last sprue. And there are two of these, identical sprues, so it's a duplicate. And we've got our lovely propellers. That's moulded very nicely, I've got to say. Absolutely gorgeous, that. Then we've got our gear legs, retraction system. Big beefy gear, isn't it? That it really is. And we've got lots of detailed stuff. So we've got some of the parts of the engine here. You've got the radar antenna loop, and you've got the part of the main gear legs. Very beefy, aren't they? Really beefy on these aircraft. And you've got your, I think it's the exhaust ring, and then they've put the wheel and tyre next to it. It's quite a heavily treaded tyre. I don't know if you see that. Nice treading on it. Yeah. And we've got over here, we've got our other side of the wheel and tyre with the wheel, the centre of the wheel. And then we've got some engine detail with our cylinders. And then air intake here. Over here then, getting down to business, we've got some guns. These are the Vickers machine guns that I've been looking for, that I was talking about. Vickers. Yeah, there we go. There's also a Browning 303 at the end there, so you've got 3 Vickers. There's quite a lot of guns on this aircraft. So that's got how many guns? So that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus the other on that little sprue, which was another 2, I think it was. It's got 10 guns, is that right? Seems a lot. Don't know whether you use every one of them, but it's well armed. It's obviously a bit heavy. There's the yoke, the pilot's control yoke. Whoops, there it is. It's a really lovely moulding, you know, got some super fine parts that other manufacturers, I'm thinking Revell especially, really struggle to nail these kind of parts cleanly. ICM are very good at this. Their moulding is really nice. A couple of parts of the main gear doors there as well. And then that's kind of it really. So quite a lot of kit there actually. There seems to be a lot of features within it that make it a potentially interesting build at a sensible price. So £50 mark. You might get it lower than that in fact. So I think there's quite a lot to go out there. And if you like your coastal command subjects, then this could be the kit for you, quite frankly. There we go. I've got it away cleanly for once. So, quite a lot of kit there. Quite a lot of kit there. With interesting, you know, there's plenty of weathering on it, and you can really make it quite a special kit, I think. I think I packed it as well as I might have done. Anyway, there we go. Super. So, what do we think? Well, I think I'm going to stick with what I said, because if I'm being brutally honest, the only thing that lets that kit down is the decals. The decals, what was the other thing I moaned about? There was something else, wasn't there? Oh yeah, the instructions for the Torpedo. Oh, maybe that's a bit churlish. I think I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10. I will report back to ICM and just mention about these decals, because they are normally much nicer than that. That's the first time I can recall seeing decals that are blotchy. Looks like they've had Edward subcontracting doing the decals. I hope it's not got top film on it as well. Could just be a one-off. The other Beauforts that I saw previously didn't have any problems, so I don't know what's caused that. It's just slipped through the net, I think. Anyway, if I prime them and say, can you have a look at this, you know, and have a look at the video and see what I mean. Sometimes though it's really difficult because the camera, maybe due to the angle and the light, it doesn't always pick up what your eye picks up. Sometimes it picks up more. I mean, we've had this recently. I'll say to you, look at this, look at that kit. There's no flash whatsoever, and everybody's on the live premiere when the live chat's on. People are saying, do you want to borrow my glasses? There's tons of flash. And I genuinely haven't seen it. Sometimes because it might be very small, and you're seeing it 20 times real size, which I'm not seeing. I'm seeing it in real life, you know, 1:1 scale or 48 scale. And sometimes that can happen, but other times I can see things. And I think that was the case with the Edward decals. When I watched that, even on the 10k subs party show, it didn't show those decals as bad as they actually were. I watched that and I thought, they don't look that bad in this video, but they were. They were really blotchy. So I don't know whether it has a problem with that kind of thing. So you may not have noticed as much as I did. Those decals were a bit defective in that kit. So I shall mention it to ICM and let them have a look at the QC and just, you know, recheck things perhaps. Thank you to ICM though. It's a lovely kit. Other than that, I don't think you have too many problems building it, and it's got some nice options and features in it. Make it quite attractive, that one. I think that's my favourite of the Beauforts they've done so far, even though I like the one that came with the figures, the tropical one. But yeah, I like that a lot. 9.5 out of 10. Thanks very much, ICM. I hope you'll give me 10 out of 10 with a thumbs up, give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I just want to give a final comment. One or two of you were asking me, I did tell a couple of people on live chat in one show last week, but my health problem I had, no, not the cough, that's just the remnants of the bug. I had a more serious pressing problem. I'm glad to say that I'm okay. It's going to be fine. there was a bit of a cancer scare, to be honest. But no, it's not that. It's something quite silly and mundane to do with a few dentistry problems which have been causing a problem in my mouth and my tongue. So, well, but I won't bother mentioning that again. I just thought I'd let you know that I'm all right. I'm going to be fine. But yeah, do get your mouth checked. I mentioned this once before. I said do go to the dentist and have it checked. The dentist is the one who spotted the problem, and I think that we just had a little bit of a slight glitch, and it's created an area of concern, but wasn't what they feared. But it just proves the value of getting it checked out. So if you got, especially things like your mouth, which people often ignore, you should definitely get it looked at. Anything like that, always get yourself checked out every time. Anyway, thank you very much for all the messages of support and concern. I must admit, this is before Christmas, late November, early December. I was a bit worried, I've got to be honest, but anyway, I'm fine. So I'll be back, as Arnie would say, with more reviews and more fun and hilarity, hopefully in not too distant future. But thank you to all of you who've been so supportive, and thanks a lot for watching this video. And until next time, please take care of yourselves. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.